Canguro English podcast, a podcast about language for people who love languages and learning. I'm your host, Christian, and today, as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Matt. Matt, how are you today?
Hello, Christian. Hello, everyone. I'm looking forward to this episode today because we're going to do something different than we normally do in these In the Wild episodes. So normally we analyze a piece of audio and then choose our top 5 most interesting verbs or nouns or expressions, right? And then we discuss them together. But we're not going to do that today, Christian. Nope. In fact, you don't even know what we're going to talk about today, do you?
No, I have no idea. Before we start, Matt, I have a question for you because both of us have learned a second language as an adult. You learned German, a little bit of German and Italian, right? I learned Spanish. Often when I know that I have like an important phone call or some kind of like official meeting or something, I will like rehearse the possible language like with myself to make sure I know the vocabulary. Do you do that at all?
I do. I have to be honest, even in English, I don't like making phone calls
Mm.
for a reservation, or I just don't really like it. And so if I have to do that in Italian, I do prepare it, but I'm always nervous and I try to avoid it as much as possible, which probably isn't a good way to get better at it because I tend to avoid it than facing the problem. But yes, so I rehearse, yes.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that's something you need to worry about because it seems like the phone call is slowly dying, right? And that everything is moving towards text messaging.
Right. If you're at a fast food place where you could order with a person or you could order with a digital kiosk, which one do you prefer to do, Christian?
Okay, so when it's fast food, I like to use the screens, and there's a specific reason for that. It's because now there's no menus to look at, right? So, like in the past, if you go to talk to a human, like above the human, like behind the human, there was a huge menu, so you could choose what you wanted, right? But now there's no menu. I don't know what I want, so that's why I need to go to the touchscreen, right? But in a supermarket, I do not like the self-checkout things. I like to buy my things with a human. What about you?
Um, yeah, I think I prefer the digital kiosk in a fast food place like McDonald's. But yeah, in a supermarket, I prefer the person most of the time. Well, it depends how long the line is, right?
Right.
I'm not really afraid of that from a language point of view in Italy. But when I lived in Germany, my German's a lot weaker. And definitely in that case, I would always run to the digital kiosk to avoid having to speak in German because I was nervous about it, right? And maybe that's a sign. I think a lot of our learners out there have probably experienced that fear. It helps you avoid the problem, but it also doesn't really help us get exercise, does it?
Yeah, I think it's also a reminder to everybody that immersion is not what you think. I think a lot of people have this idea that if they, move to London or move to New York, that, you'll just get fluent because you'll be surrounded by English all the time. But, these days you can go and get fast food and do all your shopping and do so many things without any human interaction, right?
Yes, and you just need to learn a few words like please, a bag, thank you, right? You could really avoid using the language a lot. So it's true. It all depends on who's around you and who you're speaking with, which language you're speaking in, and how interested or motivated you are. But don't worry about today, Christian. And I'm sorry, but you can't use a digital kiosk to complete this episode. We actually have to speak.
Well, you can see that the reason that I'm doing this is I'm doing something called stalling, right? Which means that I'm deliberately delaying starting this episode because I'm worried about what's going to happen.
Yeah, to stall. That's an interesting word. That's when you turn on your car, but it doesn't start, right? It just makes that noise and then the engine stops. We use that as a metaphor as well. So you can stall when you don't want to answer a question or you don't want to get into a difficult conversation. I don't think you need to stall, Christian. This is going to be fun.
Canguro in the wild.
Let me give you an overview of what we're going to do. So, while I was scrolling through social media, I found a short news clip that I thought had some interesting vocabulary in it. Okay. And I saved that news clip. It's only about 26 seconds long. And in this news clip, they simply share an interesting story. Now, I went through the audio from the clip and I chose 10 interesting words that I thought learners might not know or that I thought would be interesting to talk about with you.
Okay.
And what I'd like to do now is give you the words one by one. So we have 10 words. We'll talk about what they mean, where they come from, and how we can use them like we normally do. But as we go, I'm going to see if you can guess what the news clip is about before we actually listen to it. So you
Oh,
don't know what the story is before. Okay.
interesting. Interesting.
I'm going to give you 10 pieces, right? 10 clues, 10 pieces of a puzzle. And we'll see what your mind creates before we listen to the final real clip. Does that make sense?
It does. I'm excited to do this. Yeah, let's go.
I think I should tell you one thing. I'm not going to give you the 10 words in the same order that they appear in the news clip. Okay. I'm giving you these 10 pieces in random order. That way it's a little more fun. All right. So the first word that we'll hear in the clip at the end is paradise. What is paradise?
I think paradise is maybe something different for everybody. I mean, I don't know how much I'm affected by my culture, but I feel like paradise is like a tropical island, like, white sandy beaches, palm trees, clear water. And maybe the only other thing that I can think of is paradise is associated with, the afterlife, maybe a place that you go after you die, if you've been good, right?
Right. Well, there's an interesting connection between the word paradise. And then in English, we have another word for that place. If you die, you might go up into the sky, for example, into the clouds. But in English, we have another word for that place up there.
Heaven?
Heaven, right. And so, what's the difference between heaven and paradise? There's a difference between those two words, right?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I guess, this is another example of words that can be synonyms a lot of times. But I feel like heaven feels very associated with religion.
Hmm.
Whereas maybe paradise is a bit more flexible. But then again, I'm not sure because maybe, for example, if I go and have a massage and somebody says, "How was the massage?" and you say, "Oh, it was heaven."
What kind of massages are you getting, Christian? Yeah, so the massage was you felt like you were in heaven during this massage.
No comment.
But would you say I felt like I was in paradise during that massage? I think
I don't that doesn't it doesn't sound natural to me to say I was in paradise.
uh-huh.
Don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. My feeling is that paradise is like heaven on earth, something like that. So, as you said, paradise is something like that beautiful island, the Seychelles Islands, and it's beautiful, and we're relaxing and drinking something nice, and everyone's beautiful and nice and around us, and so on. That feels like paradise. But heaven feels like I've died, and you either go up to heaven or you go down to hell. And I guess that's connected to the culture that I grew up in. I'm not very religious, but I connect that image like that. And so I would never say, oh, he died and went to paradise, right? No, he died and went to heaven.
Do you think that there's some cultures out there, when you ask them to describe paradise, that instead of describing like a tropical desert island, they might describe like, I don't know, a snowy mountain, somewhere really cold?
I don't know, but maybe there is. Imagine if you lived your whole life on a tropical island, it might become like hell for you there. Maybe, I'm not sure. And you're dreaming of being somewhere like the North Pole, right? With Santa Claus or something. And that's your paradise. Well, you know what? Interesting. The origin of this word. This is a word that comes from Old Persian or has Proto Iranian roots. It's really old. Okay. And there was a word that was something like parideza. I'm not sure how to say it. But basically, what it meant was in Old Persian was an enclosed garden or a walled enclosure.
Oh, okay.
And the idea was here that the Persian kings created these magnificent gardens surrounded by walls to protect them from the desert
Oh.
and probably from people coming inside.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm so ignorant about this the historical, facts and the religious facts here, but is there any connection between like paradise and the gardens of Babylon?
Yeah, I don't know. Or the Garden of Eden, right? In Christian religion. I imagine that there are some connections that you have these beautiful gardens full of water and green plants and flowers and life and fruit trees and shade, right? Shadows from the trees. And outside of the walls, you have heat, dust, dirt, danger, burning, something like that.
Mm,
Maybe there is a connection there. When the Greeks encountered these beautiful royal gardens, they borrowed the word. Okay. And that's how it came into Europe through Greek and then Latin and so on, through French and then into English with paradise.
right.
And Greek translators used it for the Garden of Eden. I read that when I was researching this. So, yes, I think it's connected, definitely. So, we moved from a walled garden to the Garden of Eden. And then that, kind of shifted over into a perfect place.
So is your personal idea of paradise, is it, a tropical island with sandy beaches and, clear water? Is that yours or?
I think if I was stuck in any one place for long enough, I might get really tired of it. If I would love to be on a tropical island tomorrow. Let's go, of course. But I also would love to be in a cabin in a beautiful forest with animals around. And that kind of thing is really beautiful to me as well.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where my own paradise would be. But we do use it with words like tropical paradise,
Mhm.
an island paradise.
Mm.
I've never really heard of forest paradise. It always has to do with these islands and a lot of plants and greenery and water, I guess.
I'd love to hear some, like, listener stories from around the world. So, especially if you live in, a hot tropical place, if you live in a tropical island, please email us and tell us what your idea of paradise is. I'd love to know.
Now, Christian, in paradise, you might be eating your favorite food and you might be drinking one of your favorite drinks, right? And our next word on the list has to do with drinking, actually.
Oh.
So, what's a drink you like a lot? If you could have the best drink, the best cocktail, the best beer, what would it be?
Oh, damn, that's a tough one. Okay, Matt, I know that you and I do not agree on this because my favorite drink at the moment is sparkling water, right? Like carbonated water, and I know that you hate you hate sparkling water.
As a typical Californian guy, I really don't like sparkling water. I didn't grow up with it, but you love it. I know. Whenever we meet and we're traveling together, you always want to have sparkling carbonated drinks, right? Well, look, let's imagine you have a nice, cup of sparkling water. Okay. This might work better if it was a beer, but let's say it's sparkling water. And we're sitting there at the table and we look at each other, we say something nice, we hit our glasses together. And what might you say?
I would say, "Cheers."
So, cheers is that typical expression you say when you hit two beer glasses together, right? But I'm looking for another one. Let's say you have that cup of beer or cup of water and you're going to drink all of it all the way down, right? Can you think of any other expressions you might say before you drink the whole glass?
Um, no. I know that there's a word, well, I'm not sure if it's a word that's common in other countries, but the only other word that comes to my mind is skull.
Okay. No, we'll talk about that one another day. Let me help you. It's basically this is a sort of toast, something that people say just before drinking. And the meaning of it is something like drink it all, finish your complete drink. Yeah, drink the whole thing.
Um, bottoms up?
There we go. Good job. That's what I'm looking for. Bottoms up.
Okay.
Do you ever use that expression? Have you ever used it?
Um, no, I have never said bottoms up. I think it kind of I don't know, for me, it sounds weirdly kind of British and old-fashioned.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Does it seem like that to you or not?
Yeah, it does a bit. It sounds like we're pirates or on a sailing boat or I don't know. Doesn't it? A little bit.
Yo ho ho! Bottoms up, you dogs!
Yeah, but there's a reason it has that connection to Britain. There's a popular story actually that this phrase came from British sailors finding a king's recruitment coin hidden in the bottom of a beer mug. But that's probably not true. That's probably a folk etymology. There's not a lot of evidence for it. The most likely explanation is simply that people noticed the bottom of the glass facing up when someone drained or drank the complete glass. Simply was you put your glass all the way up in the air, you drink everything in it, and now you can see the bottom of the glass. So people would say bottoms up.
Makes sense.
This expression appeared in English in the late 1800s, and it's like, cheers, here's to you, drink up.
It's interesting that, because I know cheers in quite a few different languages, and they all seem to be related to health. In Irish, in Irish Gaelic, it's like health, in Spanish, it's health. In Italian, I think it's the same, right? But in English, cheers, like bottoms up, we we have no interest in health, right? This is drink.
Drink everything and finish your glass so we can see the top, the bottom of it up in the air, right?
Yeah.
Drink. That, that's so typical of English speaking countries. We have a strange relation with alcohol.
Yep,
And a lot of the times it's not about enjoying the alcohol, it's more about finishing the alcohol and getting as drunk as possible, as quickly as possible.
exactly.
And that bottoms up expression fits that, doesn't it?
It does.
Okay, so we have paradise and then we have bottoms up. Let me give you one more and then we can start to see if you can, make any connections or make a story with these.
Okay.
Now, look, if we drank a lot of alcohol, I mean, maybe we might fall down, fall out of a chair, and we might get an injury. So the third word is injury.
Mm.
Yeah, what's an injury, Christian?
An injury is like when you have some kind of medical problem, that's caused by some kind of, event. So, for example, a heart attack, I don't think is considered an injury, right? Or like problems with your eyes, like cataracts or something. That's not an injury. Like an injury has to be caused by something like maybe playing a sport or a car accident, or maybe you cut yourself in the kitchen cooking. Like, I don't know. It's another one of those words that's quite difficult to define for me.
Yeah, but I agree with you. It's typically for something that happened in an accident, for example. Like you broke your leg, you twisted your ankle, the football player broke a finger or something. Um, yes, those are injuries. And then you go to the hospital and they treat your injury, right? They try to fix it in some way. So it's like a broken piece of you, right? You were harmed or hurt in some way.
Yeah.
But this has an interesting word history too. Do you have any idea where this word might come from? Does it look like a Greek word, a Latin word, a German word?
Um, I mean, the only thing that I can think of is like in the middle we have that word like juror,
Mhm.
which may be related to like a jury, like a judge and jury, like going to court.
Yeah, good. Good instinct, Christian.
Oh, really?
That's right.
But, I don't understand, how can that be connected to being hurt? I don't get it.
That's breaking your leg.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's a strange history. So you're right that jury, that jurist thing in the middle is connected to the law, to the legal system, to justice, to rights.
Okay.
And that in at the beginning is like not in Latin. So it's something like injustice.
Oh,
In fact, injustice looks very similar to the word, doesn't it? A violation of somebody's rights.
right.
Okay. not according to the law.
Right.
So an injury originally meant a violation of the legal system of justice before it slowly transformed into, yeah, a violation of your physical body, of breaking something, I guess. It traveled from the courtroom to the hospital, over the centuries.
Right.
Strange.
Well, I mean, I guess there's still that connection, right? Like in some countries, you see a lot of advertising for like, have you been injured in an accident? Call this lawyer now, right? Like that whole stereotype.
You know what? Actually, I read something that tried to explain it this way. So in the beginning, it was like a legal wrong, but then that slowly transformed into a personal insult
Mm,
because someone did something bad to you legally. So it was like an insult. And then it was like something was hurting you, not physically, but insulting you. And then over time, that slowly moved over to physical harm to your body.
right.
That's why injury and injustice are old cousins. They're distant cousins linguistically.
Well, it's funny you say that, right? Because my father-in-law, so he is, almost 90 years old and he's British, right? And he was in the military, so he's from an older generation of English native speakers. And sometimes when he hurts himself, he says, I have done myself an injustice.
Oh, wow. Does he really say that? That sounds amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? I mean, normally he says it in a kind of ironic, funny way, right?
Uh-huh.
But
Uh-huh.
but he does it is a phrase that I've heard him use. Yeah.
That's funny. It sounds so indirect and so, yes, like a 90-year-old
Yeah.
Englishman might say. Yeah. So, and some words with the same root, there's justice, jurisdiction, jury. Almost all these other words are connected to the legal system. But yeah, injury. Okay, Christian. So we have paradise, we have bottoms up, we have an injury. Any idea how these might be connected in a story?
Okay, let me think. Bottoms up, paradise injury. I mean, maybe it's a story about like travel insurance. Like you think you're gonna go on this great holiday and then you drink too much and then you hurt yourself. Maybe something like that.
Okay. Well, look, let's keep going and we'll see. The next word is a little connected to injury, maybe. Let's say you have an injury in a car accident. You might want someone to come help you, to save you. And that brings us to the word rescue, to rescue somebody. Yeah, what's to rescue somebody?
Rescuing is, when someone is in a really bad situation. It could be something really serious, right? Like it could be that they are on a boat in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean and they need a helicopter to save them. Or it could just be that they have to give a presentation tomorrow and they haven't finished their PowerPoint yet and they need someone to help them, like to rescue them from this situation. So like rescuing could really be kind of big or small, I think.
Yeah, right. It's something about saving someone or maybe recovering something or freeing something or liberating somebody also, right? You could have a rescue mission from the military.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the origin of the word, but I have this feeling that it might be French because it just looks French, you know?
Now, look, I only know the answers to these things from preparing Christian. I wouldn't know this otherwise. But this does come into English via French. And there was an old French word that looks pretty similar, and it was about recovering, saving, freeing. So, yes, you're right.
Right.
The French, of course, took it from Latin. So it goes back to Latin. And the the RE is like back. And the other part comes from executor or execute or something like this, that means something about pushing away or freeing. So the idea in the origin was to recover or free someone by pulling them back from danger, right?
Makes sense. Makes sense.
And you still bring someone back from harm today if you rescue them.
Mm.
Maybe someone's drowning in the ocean. They can't swim. So you have the lifeguards rescue them. They pull them back onto the beach.
You know, for some reason, whenever I think about being near the edge of a dangerous cliff, like being on a dangerous precipice, I always think about
Precipice. Wow, what a difficult word. What's a precipice? Sorry.
Okay, so the reason that I use the word precipice is because this morning in my crossword class, because every week I do a crossword class in the academy, we solve a crossword together,
Mhm.
and all of the French speakers in the class they knew the word de precipice. They were like a precipice,
Okay.
um, and I thought, wow, that word in English is really not very common. Like it's quite a formal word, right?
What is the precipice? The precipice is, can we say it? Like the side of a mountain. You're on top of a mountain and it goes directly down, and you're right on the edge of it, on the side. Right before you fall, you're on the precipice
Yeah.
of the mountain.
Yeah, whenever I visualize that, I think about the story of the owner of Segway. Do you know this story?
No? Segway, like those little things you drive around that you stand on 2 feet and you drive around?
Yeah, so they're like 2 wheels and you stand on it, yeah, and you can kind of balance. And do you know what happened to the guy who created the Segway?
I have no idea. Did he take his Segway and he drove off a mountain and he just went off the precipice?
Exactly, that's exactly what happened.
Oh, no.
Yes, he rode off a cliff and died,
Oh,
right?
on his Segway, he went off the mountain.
On his Segway,
Oh,
on
wow.
his Segway.
Okay. Oh, wow. Oh, there's an interesting story. But nobody rescued him after he went off the precipice with his Segway.
I don't think there was anything to rescue, I guess. I don't know. It's horrible.
I've always wanted to go on a Segway, but I've never actually done it. For some reason in the United States, I connect that to really overweight security guards at shopping malls. So it never had a really cool feeling to it, though it looks like it would be a lot of fun.
So the security guards ride Segways?
There was a time where you would have these security guards at shopping centers, at malls. Yes, and they might have a Segway, which just didn't look very cool.
Hey, I've got a question because it's something that I saw in American movies, but I don't know if it ever existed in reality. But, I've seen a thing where, there are the waitresses bring the fast food and they're wearing roller skates.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
Is that real?
That's definitely real.
Oh my god.
It used to be, I think, even more popular in the past. And yeah, you park your car outside, you order,
Yeah.
and then they have these special places where you park. And then there were these roller skating waitresses that would come to you and bring the food to your car outside, Christian. Not inside, but normally outside. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
And it's still like it's if I go to California now, I can still maybe get some roller skate.
We could go to one. Next time you're there, if we go, well, let's go to one. But a lot of the times the people there are like actors or actresses and they're kind of playing a character. Or
Oh,
maybe the whole place has the style of the 50s or 60s or something like that.
wow.
Well, if we were on some roller skates, we probably would both get injured and we might need some rescuing.
For sure. For sure.
So now we have paradise, bottoms up, injury, rescue. Let's go to the next one, to number 5. Okay. Think we're in the water, Christian, maybe in a little boat, like a kayak or a canoe, something small like that. And we might have a stick in our hands that we use to move the boat, to move the water, right? What's that thing called?
One type is called a paddle. The other one is called an well, actually, I don't know if it's different, but there's another word in English which is oar.
Okay. The word that we're going to talk about is paddle, but that's strange. In English, we do have 2 words for that thing. We have a paddle and we have an oar. Let's talk about paddle first before we get to that other strange word. So to paddle could also be a verb in English, right? And that's where you're using the paddle to move your boat. I suppose if a duck was in the water, it can kind of paddle with its feet, right? To move forward.
Yeah, and that's like when you're first learning to swim, you do something called doggy paddle.
Right. Do you still dog paddle when you swim? I do sometimes.
Sometimes, right? So that's when you just like you're not swimming properly, and normally you're not going very fast. You just kind of you have your hands in front of you like a dog.
You just paddle the water just a little bit, right? And you might do it with your feet too, just like if you threw a dog in water, they naturally swim like that. And if a human does it, we say you're dog paddling. Well, to paddle is that idea that you move the water with a stick or maybe with your open hands. Your hands need to be open to paddle.
But also, because I've got a question. So imagine if you and me we go to the beach, and I say to you, "Are you going to swim?" And you say, "No, no, I'm not going to swim. I'm just going to paddle."
I would think you're talking about going in a boat. I don't think I would say, I'm going to go paddle in the ocean. I mean, well, I think you're in a kayak or a canoe or something. Would you say that just for swimming?
For me, what it means is that I'm just going to basically take my shoes off and only put my feet in the water, and I would call that paddling.
Oh, interesting. I don't think I have a word for that where I'm from. Well, walking barefoot in the surf in the water? Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
But you're not really paddling, you're still walking, right?
I know it's super weird, and it's a really specific use that I feel is well, I guess it must be a British thing then, I guess? British usage of the word?
I don't know, but I like the idea that if I say like, "Oh, Prince William is paddling in the water," to me, and from California, it sounds like he's just dog paddling like a little duck, but he's swimming. Just really softly, really slowly, just splashing his little hands around as he moves. It sounds funny to me. I wouldn't use it for walking.
I'm gonna look in the Cambridge dictionary, right? Because it's, a British dictionary. Okay, so it says, "Paddle, the act of walking through water that is not very deep, especially at a beach." Okay, and it's specifically marked as a UK word, and it says that the US version is wade.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yes. So if you wade, WADE, in California, to wade means you go in the water, Christian, but not just with your feet. It would mean to me that you go up to your knees, to your waist.
Oh,
Okay. Like halfway.
okay.
Then you're wading in the water, not just your feet, though.
So if I went to the beach in California and like I like took my shoes off and just kind of walked in the water, it would be weird if I said I went wading.
It would be a bit weird. Yes. But I think everyone would run away as soon as you took off your shirt and you got in the water.
Or they would be like, "There's a beached whale, push it back."
Look at that whale trying to paddle out into the and then if I come and try to help you, they just be like, "Who is that?" Extremely
Oh my
white
god.
giraffe-looking animal with a big stomach trying to I think we need to call the lifeguards to rescue these guys. Anyways, the word paddle or to paddle, this comes into English through the Germanic language family. And actually, there's still a word in German and Dutch that's very similar, like paddle. This was first used to describe flat blades. Yeah, like the paddle, the instrument used for pushing through water. So it hasn't changed very much through time.
Did you know that paddle is a sport here in Spain? A really huge popular sport?
That's so funny because here in Italy, I think it's the most popular sport with like 20-year-olds.
Right.
So many of my younger students, they're always saying, let's go play paddle. And they just say paddle in Italian. Yeah. Where in English, what do we call that? We call it something different, don't we? Is it paddle ball or pickleball or something like that?
I don't know because I've never played paddle, and I feel like the sport is actually really specific. It's most similar, I guess, to squash, but then it's sort of not like squash.
Mhm.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if it's like similar to pickleball. I've never played pickleball either, so I don't know.
You know what? I just looked it up on Wikipedia, and basically it comes from Spanish, looks to be. And in English, we can also say paddle. And so it's a mix of, it's a sport with a racket, and it combines elements of tennis and squash. I think that we don't know this very well, Christian, because I think this is a pretty modern thing. Like it has become popular, really popular in the last 10 years, maybe? At least here where I live.
I think it's been popular for longer in Spain only because it seems like maybe they invented it then. Is that right?
I don't know a lot about it, Christian, but just looking online quickly, it's the second most popular participation sport in Spain, and it has a strong history in Spain.
I think that's hilarious because I bet that, if you asked anybody, I mean, maybe more Europeans know about this, but for sure, if you asked anybody outside of Europe, like, what do you think is the second most popular sport in Spain? There's 0% chance they're going to say paddle, right?
Right. I've never run into that word in California, though. Maybe I'm just not around the right crowd for it. The first time I heard it, I thought of this thing for a boat or a kayak or a canoe, right? I was a little confused what they were talking about. Because normally, okay, we have a canoe paddle, a kayak paddle. You mentioned the word an oar, OAR. Okay, and here's the difference with a paddle and an oar, because to most normal English speakers, those are just synonyms, I would say. But the difference, Christian, is a paddle is not attached to the boat, and an oar is connected or attached to the boat.
Right.
That's what I read.
Okay, that makes sense.
I don't think a lot of people know that in English, though. I think we use them as synonyms, don't you?
Yeah, although I have a feeling that the word "or" is probably slowly dying. I feel like, that paddle is dominating, is gonna take over that word completely in the next, 100 years. That's just my feeling.
Okay. Well, look, let's paddle on through the water like little ducks to the next word. Well, wait, wait, wait. Do you have any idea what our story might be talking about now? We have paradise, bottoms up, injury, rescue, and then to paddle.
Oh, God. Well, it still feels to me like it's some story about, some people on vacation, and something happened. Obviously, it's related to the water. Maybe there was like some kind of accident with a boat, maybe, and the people had to, they had to paddle through the water. They got injured. That's my feeling so far.
Okay, I think we're getting near to the end. So the next word is, well, actually, these are two words together. To set sail. Yeah, so we're talking about boats. Correct.
But set sail to me, like when you say the word paddle, like I think about a really small boat, right? Like a kayak or a canoe. But when you say set sail, like I'm thinking about something much bigger.
Okay, like a big ship, a big boat.
Yeah, like if I go to the river on my canoe or my kayak, I don't say I'm going to set sail. It sounds ridiculous.
It sounds like you have a captain's uniform on and a little sail on your kayak, and you're like, "Let's set sail," and you just push off into the river and start paddling with a little miniature paddle. Yeah. Well, you're right, because this phrase comes directly from the age of sailing ships, of those big, big sailing ships from a few hundred years ago, right?
Right.
And before a ship could leave, before it could depart, sailors had to physically set the sails. And what does that mean? They had to unfold the big white cloth that you put in the middle to catch the wind. They had to unfold it and raise it up and open it, right? Position it to catch the wind. So they actually set the sail to prepare the sails for travel.
I mean, it's so funny, isn't it, that when a phrase like that becomes just a little idiom, it becomes a little multi-word construction that you just use without even thinking. It just kind of loses all its original imagery, all that original metaphor's like gone. So, when I say set sail, I'm not thinking about sails at all, right?
Right. You're just thinking about starting a journey or going somewhere in some way.
Yeah.
Look, we can set sail and go on to the next word. So that doesn't fit so well, does it? Set sail really feels like you're going on a long journey, as you said.
I really now get the feeling like this is a story about, some kind of accident with like a big boat, right? People got injured, people had to paddle, maybe the Titanic.
Okay. Well, I think the next word is going to give you a even better image of the ship, because the next word is that big wooden pole in the middle of a big, big sailboat. What's that big wooden, like tree or pole that's in the middle of a boat, Christian? Has a special name.
It's called the mast, I think.
Right. M-A-S-T, mast. Now, I would say mast. How did you say it?
Mast.
Oh, we can hear the difference with our vowel.
A huge difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like my name is Matt.
Well, see, I don't call you Mart.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Hello, Mart.
But yeah, it's interesting how I mean, it's very similar, but your vowel changed right there.
Yeah.
But yes, so a mast is that big wooden pole. It's one of the oldest nautical words, so sailing, boat words in English. And this word goes back over 1,500 years. It's really old. It hasn't really changed the whole time. And when ships began carrying large sails, the word naturally came because it was like a big vertical pole standing there, almost like a tree. In Old English, it was like mast. Old Frisian, it's the same throughout history. It hasn't really changed at all. But early masts, at the very beginning, often they were made from a single enormous tree
Right.
trunk, the big middle part of the tree. That makes sense. If we had to build a ship with a sail and we're trapped on an island, I guess we would just cut a tree down if we could. And then there we go.
Yeah, it's something that one of those stupid things that I learned about because I spent too much time on the internet in general, right? But
Okay.
every species of tree grows in a different way. So some trees they grow extremely straight. So they're actually great for for making something like a telephone pole or for making maybe the mast for a ship because they just grow like super vertical.
Now, this is not a word that I think people really need to learn, but it's a good example of how you get into a specific realm, a specific world of vocabulary, specific category, right? And then you get all these specific words that you might use on a ship. So if you're sailing on holiday and then they start using all the different words for a boat, you could easily get lost, even if you have a really good level of English. In fact, native speakers might not understand them and get lost there, right?
Yeah, God. Well, look, let me give you an example, right? Because you know that for a while I worked as a graphic designer.
Mhm.
And the top section, this is a word that's especially used in newspapers, but like the very top section of the newspaper and also like the very top section of a website is called the masthead
Okay.
because I guess it's like, the top of the mast, like the highest part of that page.
Right. It's like the page the bottom of the page is the boat, I guess, and as you move up, you get to the top of the mast. There's like those little buckets up on top of the mast, right? Don't they have a name? They do have a name. I've always wanted to stand in one of those and just look at things with a telescope.
They're called a crow's nest, right?
A crow's nest. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, because do you remember recently we did an event in London where we met up with like 20 people from the academy and we went to a traditional British pub and the name of the room we were in was called the Crow's Nest.
Right, and it was up at the very top of the building. That place had all kinds of paintings of ships and old photos of captains and so on. It was all very, connected to the sea. That makes sense for a English pub, I suppose.
Yeah. They were pirates once upon a time.
Right. English has so many expressions that come from the nautical world, from the world of ships and the ocean. And we have a lot of multi word constructions and expressions from that world because the Navy and because England's an island, right? So we got a lot of those into the language. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the fact that somebody lives overseas, there's an example, right?
Mm.
Which means you live abroad, you live in a foreign country. But in Britain, if they said overseas, they really meant over the sea, right? And over
Yeah.
the sea were all the foreigners. So, yeah, he comes from overseas. That just means abroad or a foreign country.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing. Because like when I use that word, I never actually think about, getting on a boat and traveling over the sea to go and see another country, right?
Right. So I guess in Australia, it's the same, right? If someone's a foreigner, they come from overseas.
Yeah, quick anecdote, Matt. Quick side story, okay? The Australian national anthem, which is called Advance Australia Fair, is full of really old, vocabulary, okay? Because it was written, 200 years ago, more or less,
Okay.
by some British guy, I think. Actually, maybe he wasn't British, maybe he was Dutch, I can't remember, it doesn't matter. I'm not a very good Australian because I don't know who wrote it. I'm gonna just tell you one of the sentences from the anthem, and you can tell me if you know what it means, okay? So the line is, "Our home is girt by sea."
Girt
Yeah, girt.
by sea. I have no idea what girt is. So, no, I don't understand that. Our home is protected, but I'm just guessing from context.
Yeah, from context. So you're kind of close, protected, but, just think about, like, what does it mean if you're an island?
You're surrounded, you're isolated.
Exactly, surrounded. Yeah, exactly.
And girt meant surrounded.
Yeah, so you could be like, "Oh, we are girt by the enemy," right? Like, surrounded by the enemy.
Okay. Can you still use that today in Australia, or does this sound like, you jumped out of a time capsule from 200, 300 years ago?
No, I don't think you could use it in Australia, in any, like, moment apart from if you're singing the national anthem. Although the reason that this is fresh in my mind is because I was watching a YouTube video or maybe listening to a podcast and somebody used that word and I was like, "What the hell?"
Uh-huh.
But now I can't remember the context, so yeah.
It just doesn't sound like the only word that sounds similar to me is girth, girth, which means something like thickness, right? Christian, what are you thinking about?
Oh my god. I wonder, they're probably related. They have to be, right?
Probably because it's something about being surrounded by thick I don't know.
Oh, it's an alternative form of gird. Have you heard of a girdle?
A g a girdle is, something like underwear, isn't it? Some kind of, thing to hold
Yeah,
pants up? I don't
yeah.
know, something like
It's like
that.
those things that weightlifters wear, like to protect their backs? There's like things they wear around the isn't that a girdle?
I don't know.
Is that a
I
girdle? Is that what a
don't know.
girdle? I'm scared to look at this on Google. Let's have a look. Oh, no, you're right. It's more like a feminine underwear, right? It's like,
It's like sexy kind of thing or not really, it's something that kind of holds up,
yeah.
your underwear? Or am I wrong? Or it's a long kind of panties, underwear, something like that goes up to your stomach? I'm not really sure.
Yes, that's right. Because obviously it goes around you, right? The girdle.
Okay. Well, in our story, there are no girdles, and I don't think they're singing the Australian anthem, but they were talking about the mast. So we had to set sail, the mast, and the next one, number 8, we're almost to the end, is to take on water.
Oh, this is when water, enters the boat in places where it should not be entering. It's not good. This is definitely a story about a boat sinking, right?
So a damaged boat begins taking on water. It means the water is coming in. Something from outside enters the inside.
It's so I can imagine how that would be very confusing for a learner because the most frequent use of take on, like as a phrasal verb, to take on is kind of like to confront or to attack,
Mhm.
right? So it's like I say, if I take on my enemies, it's like I'm kind of attacking them. So, maybe if a learner sees, a boat is taking on water, it's like, Okay, the boat is attacking the water? That's weird.
Yeah, a little weird. Take on is a phrasal verb, right? And there are different meanings of it. Like you said, to take on somebody could mean you confront them. So this one football team is taking on the other football team. Okay. But to take on can also mean something like accepting or acquiring or absorbing, something like that. Like a company can take on employees, or
Mm.
I can take on responsibility or take on a challenge, something like accept it.
Yeah, I guess I must be just feeling in a very aggressive mood, right? Because that is another that's another really common way to use it, right? To like, yeah, take on employees or take on a challenge.
Take on a job or something. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, a responsibility. Yeah.
But to take on water doesn't mean you're putting water on your head or something. It's used, yes, with a boat that has water entering it. Now, number nine, Christian, you just mentioned it a moment ago, and it's the verb to sink. Actually, they use it in the past tense. So this is an irregular verb. It's sink, sank, sunk. Strange irregular verb there. Not sinked.
Synced.
Sink, sank, sunk.
I'm just wondering because, it's an interesting thing about English that some irregular verbs, you can actually use them with ed, right? Like in some ways. And I'm like wondering, like if I said to you, "Oh yeah, the boat sinked like 2 weeks ago," does that sound weird to you? Really?
That does sound a little weird to me, actually, Christian, but maybe it's just a regional thing because there are other verbs where we can use the ed or the irregular verb. It's kind of like both options are okay.
Mm,
The one option hasn't really won the battle between the two.
mm.
But I don't think I would ever say sinked, sinked, sinked. It's sinked. No, it's sank.
It's probably something that you expect maybe more from like children who don't know that that verb is irregular, right?
Well, that's a good reminder to everyone, actually, that English children, how do English kids learn all the irregular verbs? They just learn it through experience. So the child says, "Oh, my boat sinked." And maybe the parent just says, "Oh, it sank." They don't normally correct them. It's just like, "Oh, it sank." They just repeat it, I suppose, the correct way. And a lot of the times the kid just learns it through hearing it from other people. And as an adult, when we hear somebody say, "Oh, we goed to the supermarket," if a kid said that, we would just smile and be like, "Oh, it's so cute.
Yeah,
You mean they went,"
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um, yeah. And sometimes as a learner, if you don't know, you should just put an ed. That's always my advice. Just think everything's a regular verb at first. If you're speaking and you have no idea, put an ed. Everyone will understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And then you have that special list of 100 or I don't know how many verbs to learn, but it's difficult to remember them all. So just put the ed when you don't know. Someone might correct you with a little smile and then you'll learn it.
I'll I'll never forget, I was in class once with a group of kids. They were probably like 10 years old, and, we were talking about cooking potatoes, and they, like, didn't have the vocabulary to like, they didn't know exactly how to describe it. So, they said they said, "So, we'll go into the kitchen and do the potatation."
Okay. What a cool
And
invention. Uh-huh.
I know, I loved that. I was like, "Wow." So, the interesting thing is that they're actually learning to recognize, like, the patterns, like
Mhm.
the structure of English, and they're just trying to apply it to other words, and the crazy thing is that most of the time, it works, you know? It really does.
Right? It's a good strategy. And I would always suggest exactly that. Just invent it. Well, actually, if I hear a learner say an irregular verb with the ed, like they said, "I thinked" instead of "I thought," the first reaction I always have is, "That's a really good idea. That ed was a really good idea. You're just unlucky." In this case, it's irregular. But the fact that you put the ed there actually shows that you understand how English works and you're feeling your brain is doing the right thing that it should do.
Mm,
There's no reason why it's irregular. It just is.
yeah.
Maybe there's some historic reason that we don't care about, okay? But we just have to memorize that one. But keep putting the ed there. when you don't know. If you don't know, put the ed, especially because most of the irregular verbs are the ones we use a lot. They're very common. So especially if you're listening to this podcast, you're somewhere in an intermediate level, and that means most of those ones you don't know, if you're not sure, it's probably a more infrequent verb, so it's probably ed anyways.
Yeah, I mean, there are some theories of learning that, view learning in exactly that way, which kind of feels opposite, right? That it's not that you're learning the rule, you're actually learning the exceptions to the rule, which is just a different perspective of the learning process. And yeah, so that I agree, Matt. We have to all learners should celebrate their wins, even if they're small wins.
Right. Well, I think that's a big win if you use the ed because it shows you know how the past works in English. It's really good. A lot of people don't understand that. So you just need to learn the irregular ones. But sink, sank, sunk. Sink is another old word. It's an ancient Germanic word that's barely changed for over 1,000 years. And the original meaning was simply to go downward, actually, not just a ship underwater, like a ship sinks. The Titanic sank, right? But it was used in other ways just to mean to go down. But over time, the word expanded from things physically going underwater to other abstract ideas, right, Christian? Like you can sink into debt or sink into despair or depression or things like that. So it's become metaphorical as well.
Yeah, and you can like sink your money into a project,
Yeah,
right?
we've done that. I can sink my teeth into a pizza as I'm eating.
Oh,
Can't can't you? You can sink your teeth, which means you slowly bite down, I guess.
mm. And that object that people have like in the kitchen, the kitchen sink where you wash the dishes. I guess that's called a sink because it's where the water goes down, right? I guess.
I guess so, that's right, because it's not about going underwater, really, right? It's just about water going down. Yeah, so that thing, if that's not clear in your kitchen, you kind of have a hole in the counter where, and then you turn on the water and the water goes down into this place. You clean your plates in that place, maybe. That thing is the sink. When you're a little baby, they might give you a bath in the sink. Well, my parents did because they were too lazy to bring me to a bathtub, I guess.
I'm sorry, but there is nothing cuter in the whole world than a baby in a sink. It's just so cute.
There are some other multi-word constructions with sink, like you need to sink or swim. What does that mean, Christian?
Yeah. The metaphor here is that I'm putting you in a situation where you are, in this deep water. It feels like you don't have a lot of experience in this deep water. And there's only two possibilities, right? You're going to sink under the water and die, or you're going to swim and survive. But there's nothing in between, right? It's like a really extreme situation.
And nobody's helping you. They just throw you in the water and you succeed, you survive, or you fail without help. So you sink or you swim. Sink or swim.
And if you go fishing, you have that really heavy thing to pull the hook down. It's called a sinker, right?
Yes, a sinker. Sinker. How did you say it?
Sinker.
Again, we can hear my more American R at the end there, a sinker. One more, and then we'll move on. If I explain something to you, but maybe it was complicated, and then I say, let that sink in.
Mm,
What does that mean? So I give you some explanation, but you need to sit there and think about it a lot. And
mm.
yeah, you need time to let that sink in. You need to take time to fully understand it. It's like the idea has to sink into your brain, into your body a little bit.
Do you know about the Elon Musk joke, right? With let that sink in. Do you know about that?
No, no, please tell us. No, I don't know it. Was he on a Segway and he went off a mountain or something?
No, I really do not want to talk about Elon Musk, at all. But in this case, I'll do it because it's related to learning English. So when he bought Twitter, he posted a photograph of himself walking into the office, like the main office of Twitter, holding a kitchen sink. Okay. And underneath the photograph, he wrote the text that said, I just bought Twitter. Let that sink in. Right.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yes. Um, so it's like a terrible dad joke. But probably for people learning English, it's like a great image to help you remember that phrase, right?
That's an awesome way to remember that. That's perfect. Yes. Well, if we talk about Elon Musk too much, I might need to go on our final word here. On and here's the word, a booze cruise. A
Oh.
booze cruise. What's a booze cruise, Christian?
It's so interesting because I learned about this word maybe like 6 months ago, because it came up in class
As it does.
as it does. You can see you can see the kind of classes that I'm giving, right, these days. Here's the thing, right? So, in my mind, a booze cruise is when you go on a boat and you drink a lot of alcohol. Is that what it is for you?
Yes, because booze, let's just quickly look at the words. Booze is a way to say alcohol in English, okay? And then a cruise is on a ship. So a booze cruise is when you, for me, Christian, it's when you go on a ship and you drink a lot of alcohol, really a lot of alcohol, excessively. The whole point of the cruise is to drink alcohol, right?
Right, right. Well, I discovered only by looking on Wikipedia that for a lot of British people, booze cruise has a completely different meaning, and it's related to them living kind of close to France. Like, can you guess why? Or can you guess this alternate meaning of a booze cruise?
Living near to France, the only thing I could think is that you go across the channel to buy a lot of booze, a lot of alcohol for cheaper. I don't know if it's cheaper in France, and then you bring it back.
That is exactly right. So, like for some British people, a booze cruise, you're not actually drinking on the boat. Like the objective is to go and buy it cheaper in France. Yeah.
Okay. But you still have alcohol on the boat, right? You're just not drinking it. Maybe you're drinking a little.
Yeah, a little. Well, if they're British,
Maybe
they're
a little.
drinking a lot on the boat anyway. Yeah.
Right. Where does booze come from? So, booze has a mysterious history, actually. It's not really clear, but it seems to have entered English through Dutch influences.
Okay.
All right. And originally it meant to drink a lot, to drink excessively. And only later did it get connected to drinking alcohol. Right. And a funny thing about this is that there are a lot of slang words for alcohol in the English language. There always have been, but a lot of them disappear after a few decades. They don't last forever because it's slang and informal, but booze has survived for over 500 years.
Wow.
So that's unusual. It's one of the oldest pieces of drinking slang that's still used.
Wow.
And the only reason I can think, Christian, is that it just sounds funny. It sounds cool. Booze.
It does. It sounds because maybe it's like when you've had a lot to drink, a lot of alcohol to drink, it's easy to say that word, right? Booze.
Right. When I think of that word in the US, I think of someone really poor, maybe someone who's homeless, unfortunately, something like that. And they're drinking booze out of a brown bag. Yeah, I suppose we could use it. Like, let's go get some booze for the party. You could say that as an adult in an everyday way, but it often gets connected to alcoholics or something like that.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you should say that, right? Because I lived in London for a number of years, and I worked in the creative industries. Okay, and the creative industries is full of, let's say, a lot of interesting characters. Okay, a lot of neurodivergent characters who just want to have a lot of fun. And so there was a specific kind of lunch called a boozy lunch. And so, like,
Okay.
sometimes, one of your work colleagues might say, "Do you want to go to lunch?" You say, "Sure." And they're like, "Boozy lunch?" And you say, "Okay." And that means that you're going to
Ah.
probably drink like 2 bottles of wine at lunch and then go back to your desk and
And keep on working.
keep working. Yeah.
We'll get the creative energy
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So boozy, that that sounds like an adjective that sounds quite British to me, actually, boozy. Um, booze can mean alcohol. To booze, is that a verb? I guess it could be. What about a boozer, Christian? A boozer? Have you ever heard that?
No, no. Is that a word that you know or use?
No, actually, I just saw that in the internet.
Oh, no, wait a second. Oh my god, what am I yeah, what am I talking about? Oh my god, yes.
It says person or pub in British English.
Yes. No, it's true. This is a great example, Matt, how I did not recognize the word because it was just out of context.
Uh-huh, right.
But yeah, it's absolutely a word. It's a word that I've used myself.
Hi. Yeah.
You just can't remember.
I just got it's crazy. It just shows that, yeah, when language is out of context, it can really lose its meaning.
Right. How did you use it? What does it mean?
So a boozer is the place. It's like, either, well, normally it's a pub, okay? And so you might say, "After work, let's go to the boozer." And that means let's go to the pub and have some drink.
Okay. So that's new for me, Christian, but I've heard some of these other ones like to hit the booze, which means just to drink. Yeah, think if someone's really your roommate is an alcoholic just laying on the sofa drunk and I'm just, "Hey, you got to lay off the booze." Means something like to lay off means stop it, stop doing it.
Yeah.
Um but I could say let's booze it up tonight, Christian, right? Let's
Yeah.
drink a lot tonight.
I just love the idea that if we got in a time machine and went back 500 years, we could just go, "Booze?" And they would
Yeah.
they would understand.
They just point. Yes. Yeah, some things in the English language never change, and this is one of them, it seems to be. Now the word cruise, 'cause there are 2 words here, booze, cruise. Now, cruise, when I was looking up this one, I was surprised I learned something new. So I think of a cruise as that big ship full of 2,000 people, and you go around the Mediterranean for a week, right? That's a
Yeah.
cruise. But why do we call it a cruise or a cruise boat? Do you have any idea? Do you know that one?
No, I have no idea.
Okay. When we look at it, it'll make sense after you see it. So, think cruise is connected to the word cross and history. Okay. Or crux or like crusade. It's connected to cross, basically.
Right.
And originally, sailors, when they were looking for something, they were searching for something in the sea. They would sail, they would move their boats back and forth in crossing routes. Okay.
Oh,
Well, a crossing pattern. And that pattern eventually became known as cruising.
right.
All right.
Right.
Yeah. So the original idea wasn't around relaxation or something. This word cruise came from the idea of sailors zigzagging or, making crosses in the sea while they're searching for lost ships, for example.
Right, so the idea is that you kind of do a cross so that you don't miss a section. Is that right?
That's right. So we go straight one way and then we, come back and we do a cross, I guess, or you make kind of a squares, something like that. I don't know. But we do use the word to cruise in English, even as a verb. Also, if I'm just driving my car in a kind of slow way, so I can look at everyone at the beach and I'm just cruising down the street, right? We use that a lot in California.
Yeah, and also, a lot of cars have cruise control, right?
Right. That's something I bet that a lot of our learners know. You push the button and the car just cruises at the same speed.
Mm.
So cruising has something about, about not changing the speed a lot. It's more like you're at a constant speed. I guess back in the day because they were looking for somebody and making this pattern.
Yeah.
A booze cruise. This expression became popular in American English in the mid 20th century. And yes, the destination isn't important. The drinking is the point. So you have a party boat. That might be another similar expression, or a drinking trip, a party cruise. Yeah, so a booze cruise. Okay, Christian, you have all the words. I'll repeat them one last time. So we have paradise, bottoms up, injury, rescue, to paddle, to set sail, the mast of the ship to take on water to sink and then a booze cruise. What do you think our news clip is going to be about?
Okay, so the clip is that there was this group of like people, probably young people, and they wanted to go on a booze cruise, in paradise. Maybe it was like, I don't know, in the Bahamas or something. And, suddenly there's a huge storm or maybe a tornado, and the mast, breaks. It's like snaps, and the boat starts to sink, and people are injured, and then they're like paddling in the water for hours, and then they get rescued by the Coast Guard or the police or something.
Okay. Well, look, let's do this. I'm going to play the clip now. And if you want to see the actual video of this news clip, you can find the link on our website under this podcast episode. Okay. Okay, Christian. This comes from 9 News Australia.
Oh,
Maybe we can speak about the accent of the speaker at the end as well. Okay, let's play the clip.
A pirate-themed booze cruise has gone bottoms up in Turkey, with close to 150 people left paddling in the Mediterranean Sea. The Big Boss Diamond ship was setting sail for a daily tour when it began to take on water near the unfortunately named Paradise Island. Within an hour, the boat had sunk, with only the masts remaining above the surface. All passengers were rescued without injury.
I love
Okay.
I love the fact that that this boat had this terrible accident right next to Paradise Island.
Yes. And it was a pirate themed booze cruise, which sounds even, more fun.
Incredible. My grandparents once they told this just hilarious story about how they went on a holiday somewhere in the north of Australia, but then just as they got there, there was these gigantic bushfires, and then they basically nearly died, and they got evacuated, and they had to live in the desert for days while they got rescued, and then at the end of the story they said, yeah, and the name of the company that we used to book the holiday was called Stress Free Holidays. And it reminds me of that.
You gotta love it when something horrible happens, and yes, you're right next to some name like Paradise Island. Right.
Do you remember we stayed in the Success Hotel in Vietnam?
Oh, yeah. Yes. That's where those rats were running around that we were watching. Yeah. There was a very friendly worker there, but it wasn't really a success, that
He
hotel.
was very friendly to you, Matt.
Yes, he was. Did you notice how they used all of the words there? Now, actually, there was one, they kind of, Christian, this kind of just made me laugh because the guy is kind of being serious, but maybe I feel a little sarcasm in the way he's saying it, but it's like they're reporting on something that's kind of funny, but it still sounds like a news clip, right? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's kind of like, they're trying their best to be serious, but the situation is just it's funny in itself.
Yeah, but they also even put a little joke in there, if you notice. Let's listen to the part where he says bottoms up.
A pirate-themed booze cruise has gone bottoms up in Turkey.
Oh.
See how he made a little joke there? A little language joke? Maybe that's why it got my attention, because bottoms up is when you drink all of your alcohol, right? You finish your glass of beer. But he said the boat went bottoms up.
Interesting. So he's like taking that metaphor and using it to make fun of the situation. It's very clever.
Right. The ship is bottoms up because it's upside down. Well, kind of. And that's why I feel like they're joking around a little bit with it, I guess.
Yeah, because what's the technical word that you use when a boat goes like upside down? Capsize?
Capsized. Yes. There we go. That sounds very official, technical.
Yeah.
That's what you would think you'd read in a police report or something like that, right? The boat was capsized, not the boat was bottoms up. Christian, another thing I noticed was the accent from the newscaster, which may sound just normal to you, but I noticed that he had a slight Australian accent, I guess. Is that what they sound like on the Australian news?
Yeah, it's funny, Matt, because I haven't lived in Australia for 20, 25 years. And so, a lot of the English that I experience every day is either American English, because I'm watching like films and series made in the United States, or it's like British because I'm in Europe. I live in Spain, right? I'm in Europe, so I'm interested in the British news. And so to me, when I hear like the Australian news, it sounds really funny to me. Like I can't it doesn't sound serious to me, even though I'm Australian, right? But to my sister and my mum who still live in Australia, like it's totally normal. So my reaction to it, Matt, is maybe not what you're expecting.
Well, that just reflects your experience. And as you often say, we speak like who we speak with.
Yeah.
Maybe we feel maybe we could say what we hear a lot is what sounds normal to us, something like that. So the feelings we get around accents can shift and move over time depending on where we are, who we're speaking with, I guess. What about his speed? Just to say, while listening to this, it was only 26 seconds. Now, I don't know if all of our learners know all these words like booze cruise and mast and to paddle and bottoms up. Each one of those words could be a little obstacle, right, to understanding. Now, as far as the speed, this guy was not speaking extremely fast or really slow. I actually counted his words per minute, which is one way to measure how fast somebody speaks. And he was right in the average, Christian, right in the middle of what the normal speed is. And I also looked for his syllables per minute. And also, it was right in the middle. It wasn't fast, it wasn't slow. Okay? It's just kind of average
Okay.
to give an idea of how fast he was speaking.
I had an experience today. Today I went out to the shops and because I don't know if you have the same thing, Matt, because you live in Italy, I live in Spain, and where we live, right? There's not many people around us who speak or understand English. So I'm kind of used to speaking in English and the people around me don't know what I'm saying,
Mhm.
right? And so that's a bad habit to have because when I'm here, sometimes I forget that people can understand what I'm saying,
Okay.
right? Um, and so I was walking behind a guy, and I made a comment about his shoes. Okay, to my mum. I was with my mum, and he turned around and he basically said like he probably spoke for like 10 full seconds and I literally did not understand a word that he said. It was like, and I was like, "What did he say?" And I asked my mum. My mum said, "I have no idea what he said either." Um, but he was totally happy. He wasn't angry or anything. It was just,
He hadn't hit the booze before he went into the shop, or
no.
was he boozed up?
No, I mean, have you ever does that happen to you? You forget that people understand you or
Um, Yeah, but well, yes, a little bit, but maybe not quite the same, Christian, because when I'm with my wife, for example, we speak in Italian together. So if we're out at a shop together, normally I'm speaking in Italian. Does that make sense? So it doesn't happen all that often.
right.
Though I have had the experience of it happening before. Um, that I think this may happen to a lot of other listeners out there more than us, actually, Christian, because if you speak English like that behind someone's back in a supermarket, actually in the world there's a good chance that they might understand you.
Mm,
So you're a bit more careful about it. But I've done it with my wife in Italian or even in German when we were in the US or somewhere like that because we thought nobody could understand us.
right.
Okay. My wife also speaks German much better than me, a lot better than me. So, yeah, in Italy one time, there was a guy that was walking by us at the beach, and he had on a little Speedos, like some really little underwear. You could really see a lot hanging out, basically. And this wasn't a guy you wanted to see a lot hanging out. Okay. And my wife said something in German because she didn't want to say it in Italian, right? But the guy turned around because he was a German guy.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my
And he
god.
didn't
That's
speak
so
for 10 seconds or was happy with us. he was annoyed and walked away.
Wow.
But yeah, so I guess that's the same type of thing.
Have you ever had the opposite where, like, somebody doesn't know that you can understand Italian and they're talking about you?
Yes, that's happened, and sometimes if that happens, I just let it happen because it's really fun to hear if they're talking about you. But it's hard to ignore, right? It's
Yeah.
hard not to, react or something like that.
Do you remember when we were together in, uh, maybe in Milan? I think in Milan in Italy, and we went to have that, like, special type of, like, local pizza, which was really like a really thick, fat pizza, right?
Right. Not typical for Italy, okay, this pizzeria we went to. It had the feeling of an American pizza to it, Christian, right? And then you said something about that.
It did. Yeah, and we went to pay, and I said to the maybe she was the owner. She took the money, and I said, "Oh, this pizza really reminds me of Chicago pizza." And and you looked at me and you went, "Ooh," and she looked at me like she looked at me like I had told her that, I wanted to kill her babies or something. Um, it was like
Yeah,
both the way
basically, Christian told the Italian pizzeria owner that her pizza was like American pizza. Now, look, I love American pizza and Italian pizza. I love them both, but they're totally different things for me. Okay. But yes, Christian, to tell her that it tasted like American pizza,
she was not
not
happy.
a
Both of you
compliment.
were not happy.
I was not happy because I thought, oh no.
Australian English in general, actually similar to California English, okay, is it's like famous for something called a high rising terminal. And a high rising terminal is when your intonation goes up at the end. So it's kind of like, what are you doing today? And it's really hot today, isn't it? Like it goes up at the end of the sentence. And what I noticed is with the newsreader, because obviously that's designed to be something more serious, he goes down at the end, which is something which is much more, let's say, acceptable, much more common in the world of like newsreaders, like in English speaking newsreaders. So
Right.
if you listen to his intonation, it's like da 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 da, da 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 da.
With close to 150 people left paddling in the Mediterranean Sea.
So he goes down at the end to try to give the feeling of being serious. Going down tends to ending with that lower sound does give it a bit of strength, seriousness. You're not joking around.
All passengers were rescued without injury.
You know what? Another thing I noticed, Christian, actually, is just for grammar. At the beginning, he used the present perfect and not the past simple. So let's listen to that.
A pirate-themed booze cruise has gone bottoms up in Turkey.
So he said, has gone bottoms up, not went bottoms up in Turkey.
It's incredible that you noticed that, okay? Because that is actually one of the characteristics of Australian English. And it's something that you only notice this as an English teacher, right? So, whereas in many other varieties of English, they use a lot of past simple to tell stories.
Mhm.
Here in Australia, they love present perfect for storytelling, right? So, instead of saying something like, I went to the shops and I bought milk and I saw my friend from school, they'll say something like, yeah, so I've gone to the shops, right? And I've bought milk. And then I've been standing there and I've seen my friend from school.
Okay, how interesting. Yeah, that's definitely different. Where I'm from, I definitely would use the past simple. I went to the grocery store, I saw my friend. Though on the news, sometimes I feel like they do use the present perfect a little more. And sometimes, only as an English teacher, I've thought about this, is why, right? And it's something like, yeah, the thing is finished, but the effect is continuing on, or they're trying to indirectly tell you that this isn't an old story, this is new, it's still continuing now or something. So it makes it feel more immediate. It feels more news, right? Newsworthy or something that just happened.
Yeah, interesting.
I'll have to listen to you when you speak more, Christian. Do you use the present perfect more than the past simple? Hmm.
I think that I've lived away too long to be affected by that. But for sure, like if I went and recorded some people, on the street, then, I think you'd probably really notice that use of the present perfect. It's very unusual.
Well, I think we have your homework. We would like you to go on a booze cruise in Perth and record some people. That would be amazing.
Challenge accepted, man. Challenge accepted.
Yeah, just be sure the boat doesn't sink and you get injured and need rescued or anything, okay? Or maybe you'll end up in paradise or heaven.
And that brings us to the end of this episode of Canguro in the Wild. If you want a transcript of this episode, plus a list of the key vocabulary we discussed today, you can find it on the website at kangarooenglish.com. If you have any questions or comments about today's episode, please send us an email at podcast@kangarooenglish.com. If you enjoyed this episode and you want to support this podcast, please leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Matt, as always, thank you so much for all of your hard work in preparing this episode today. It was great fun.
Thanks, Christian. And everyone, let us know if you like this format of In the Wild episode. Next time, we'll be back to our normal top 5 episodes, but from time to time, we might play around and try something like this.
So until next time, Matt, bottoms up.
Bottoms up.
And we'll see you in class.